So it's kind of blustery here, a little bit cold in Texas. We got some ice storms coming through, so you can see the ice. So much cold here. Look at those fun little hot's gonna kick on. There's the bedroom. It is freezing. So this is good. Oh no, frozen solid. Okay. And last night before bed I shut off these waters which come into the house, and they're solid as a rock. But what's great about it is inside is toasty warm. Let's see what my cats think. What do you think, Sophie? Huh? What do you think? Is it toasty? Yep, toasty warm. Toasty warm. Doing a little touch-up paint on some spots on the ceiling and a couple other places. Oh, I'm painting this side here. Yeah, it's nice and warm in here. I guess I could put this in up here so we don't lose any hot air. Get the ice on the windows. Not too bad in here. It's kind of fun. Little ice on the roof. I've said it before, but having the large shower like this really makes the place livable. It's just not as livable, I would think, without it. Because you don't feel like you're living in a tiny space when you have a large bathroom where you can clean and it's comfortable and it's you know, the way it's supposed to be. So one of the really nice things about living on a bus that I've found is that when it's time to clean up the bus, it literally takes 10 seconds. One of the ways that I'm keeping myself busy is by cleaning up the bus. I guess we could do a little bit of a tour here. So I've been on YouTube watching people post videos from the RTR. I never have gone, and I don't know that I will, but I thought it was for people that lived in vans or cars or minivans or trucks and stuff. I didn't know that you could bring an RV to it. That's interesting. I wonder what that's like with all this. I thought it was about getting seminars on how to live out of your van how to work out of your car. But I guess not. So I love that you can clean up these spaces in a matter of moments. Literally takes less than 10 minutes to get this place spotless. 10 or 15, you know. And I love that about living in a tiny space like this. When my wife's out of town, I like to turn it into a bachelor pad, lay out some blankets, and lay around in my underwear. So I'm going to try something here. Okay, let's talk about... So the wife's out of town, and gives me an opportunity to be in the coach and talk through it, talk about it, and stuff. So talking through the coach, maybe some things I would have done differently, or I think if we started with buying the coach, I looked at a couple coaches. They're expensive. You had to fly to these different locations to look at them, and that was money. And I made the mistake of having a broker the deal, who was working on for both parties, and so he wasn't really serving my interest. It was mostly just serving the interest of his money and sales. If I would do it again, I would get a broker representing myself, so that I would get the best deal that I could get. And there's a lot of brokers out there who work at this high level. Same with boats and the like. No, I'm not that knowledgeable about it. I would have taken more time when I was inspecting the coach, when I was looking at them. For example, like this coach, I may not have bought it because of some of the issues that I've since fixed, but like the whole thing. But when I got it home, the very first thing is that it leaked everywhere. Like it was, I mean, we had a big rainstorm and everything was wet. All the floors, all the walls, all the windows, it was coming in everywhere, and it was such a disaster. And then we had to rip everything out, and we had no idea. You know, the guy I bought it from, I thought he was just trustworthy, and maybe he is, I don't know. Maybe he's never been out in the rain, so he didn't know that it leaks like a sieve. I'll give him the benefit of that, you know, benefit of the doubt on that. But so I think if I could go back, one of the things that I would do is I would get a big hose when I was looking at it, and I would have run it all over the top of the bus. Not sprayed it into nooks and crevices. You can't do that, because then you might break seals on stuff, and then you'll have a leak anyway. Like if you spray your air conditioner pad and break the seal there, you're going to leak into your cabin. But I would have just rained on it with a hose just to see that it didn't leak. That would be the first thing that I would do if I were to go back and buy another coach. The next thing that I would do is I would flip it on and I would run the engine at high RPM, and I would run it for maybe an hour or two, and just watch the gauges, listen for sounds, see how it sounds, see how it smells, and make sure that everything's running clean and clear on that end. No overheating, no blow by, which is a bunch of white smoke coming out that doesn't ever go away. That'd be the second thing I'd look at. Then I would take it on the highway and listen to the transmission and the feel of the transmission, how it, if there's big heavy punks and those kind of things, then it's something to worry about or be concerned about. So if the engine and the transmission are good and the driveline's all good, then other things to think about on the chassis is braking time and how new are the brakes. A lot of these buses, the owners will keep a history of maintenance on it, when it was done and how it was done and who it was done by. And I found the stuff that on this coach kind of useless because I didn't know enough about it at the time. So the maintenance that I saw on it was an oil change here or there, and I don't know. I don't know that having that history of maintenance. I mean, I think it's important if you're not going to do anything with the coach. You're just going to move right into it. I don't know. I can't talk too much about that because I don't know enough about it. Fire up the generator. Make sure it works from the inside and the out and all the switches wherever it's located. And just let it run. And let it run for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours. If you have the time, just make sure it doesn't overheat. Make sure it doesn't smoke. Make sure there's no blow-by. When I say smoke, I mean smoke bad. Look at the lines on it and see if they're original to the coach. If they're 20-year-old fuel lines, you're going to have to replace them. That's something that I learned the hard way. Look at the battery systems. If it's got an old hard inverter, then that's not a selling point. It was interesting when I got this coach. Apparently that was, at the time, it was a selling point of the coach. And all the coaches, like, look at this hard inverter. And they're so old and they're so inefficient, and compared to what you can get at Harbor Freight for $50 now, that it's not a selling point. And so that's my opinion. So I wouldn't look at that as a selling point. The nice thing about Prevost, and the reason that I went with a Prevost over anything else, is it's a stainless steel chassis, and it's all stainless steel. So the rust is supposed to be mitigated, and you're not supposed to have too many problems with rust. What I found is that this particular coach, when I got up underneath it, had a lot of rust, mostly surface rust, on the underside. So a lot of driving in snow and ice and salt was evident, And had I known more about the process when I was buying the coach, I would have aired up the coach. I would have brought a jack stand or something, put it under there, and I would have climbed under the coach, chalk the wheels, climb under the coach, and inspect it manually with a flashlight at the amount of rust there is underneath of the coach. And there's an acceptable range. I mean, you're not going to find a coach with no rust, but you can tell when you look at something that, this is going to be something that I'm going to have to, eventually abate, or I don't know. You're just going to have to fix. If it seems like something you're going to have to fix, then just pay attention to that. The airbags are decent. I mean, if they haven't been replaced in 20 years, then you're probably going to want to replace them at some point, but most airbags will last 20 years, so that's not something you have to worry about too much. But look at them, see if they're cracked or not. But airbags are so cheap and so inexpensive to replace, put on brand new ones. They're not even something to be concerned about. I mean, if you think about, if they're $200 a piece and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say you have 8 on the coach. That's $1,600 for all new bags, and that's a one-time expense for 20 years, 10 years, and you replace them with regularity. So that's not a big expense for this coach. A lot more concerning issue would be the brakes, because to do the brakes, calipers, all that stuff is going to cost you, $10,000. So think about that when you're looking into the coach. Tires are expensive. You're going to spend $8,000, so between $4,000 or $8,000, depending on the type of tire you buy and the quality of tire you buy, to replace all of them. So if they're brand new, a year old, then that's great. And if they're 5, 6, 7 years old, then you got to start worrying that that's going to be an expense that you're going to have to put in right at the start. Windows, that was a big one. All of the coach windows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 2-paned windows, all of them were replaced with new windows. We took out the old ones and put in new ones, because they were all the seals were dried and cracked. All the Sika in there, the P6 or whatever, had cracked and dried over 20 years, and it just wasn't. That's about the time when it needs to be replaced. Not the windows necessarily, but yeah, the windows too, because the two pane window eventually separates on itself and then fogs up because moisture gets in there. So they all had to be replaced. The 2 front windows as well had to be replaced, as far as the passenger and the driver window, the sliding windows, with new ones, because those both, the seals went bad. So I would say 20 years, your seals are going to go bad and your windows are going to fog up. So those are expenses that you have to prepare for. Not hard to replace the window. You cut it out, put it back in with some caulking. There's nothing to it, but you have to buy the windows, and they're $250, $300 a piece. So it adds up. So I would look for any fogging, and I don't know. There's so much. I think that if it has a propane gas electric fridge on it, and it's over 10 years old, I would say it's no good, and you're going to have to replace it. I mean, that would just be my take on it. 10, 15 years tops. So that's an expense you have to consider replacing if you're buying an older coach. The AquaHot system for me was a big selling point. I was very excited about it, and I got it home and I worked on it and and it just wasn't efficient enough to use in cold climates and for daily use. And about 20 years, that's about the lifespan of one of those AquaHot tanks, and so it had to be replaced. So you're right at that line of time. Just what you have to consider, I guess, as you buy it. But having said all that, air conditioner need to be replaced, max fans need to be replaced, all the lights had to be replaced. So that's why the whole thing was taken apart and replaced, and it looked terrible inside. But it works great. We love it. We love living in it. We've been in it full time for a year, and couldn't be any happier with the living situation that we're in. We both love it. We're thrilled with it. And we've both gotten a lot closer as a couple. We were already a very close couple, but living in a tighter space has brought us even closer. So it's been great. We spent a lot of time planning the layout so that we could do things that are natural to us, that come natural to where we feel natural as we're having dialogue throughout the day, or watching television, YouTube or Netflix or whatever it is, or how we cook. My wife, when she cooks, she likes to stand in a corner and she talks like this, and she does this stuff, and then she does this stuff, and then she does this stuff. And so the whole build was about, the position of where she would be and where to be comfortable in here. So that was a big deal. The size of the shower, that was important for us, because we wanted to take comfortable showers where we didn't feel like we were crammed in somewhere, where we had space to wash our hair and bend over, do all the things you need to do to take a nice shower. One thing that I hate is the Nature's Head. It's definitely a weekend warrior type of situation. I did just get a separate toilet that'll go in here. It's a lot more like a throne, a lot more comfortable, a lot easier to use, and it also drains into the gray tank the way that I wanted it, the Nature's Head, to work. I could go back and do that, I would do that differently. Now, if you're in a van or in a small bus or Class C, and going to the bathroom isn't something that you really enjoy, and it's not important to you, then get a nature's edge. The Victron system, one of the best things that we did. It's great, works great, everything works great on it. So anyway, so the RTR, I'm seeing all these videos posted on it, and I thought that the RTR was only for van dwellers and people who lived out of cars and trucks. I didn't know that it was like any RV could go. So that's kind of cool, that anybody can go. Anyway, so if you went to RTR and you enjoyed it, comment below. I'd like to hear about it. It's fun to watch videos and stuff, but yeah, we didn't go. Anyway, so those are some thoughts on buying a bus. Things that I would look for differently. I would have inspected the hell out of the water bay. Looking back on it, that would have been something I would have just really looked into. I would have opened up all of the awnings. Fortunately, we have Zip-Ds, so they're all really well maintained and they're good quality awnings. Hold them all out. Just work everything in it when you're using it. Don't switch every switch, open every door. I mean, if you're going to spend the money on one of these, know that it's going to work. It's glue on here that's never come off. I need to wipe it off so my wife doesn't have to keep looking at it. And if you are going to convert a bus, I mean, I would say take your time. Really get out and look at different floor plans. Think about your floor plan. Live your floor plan. Set your floor plan up in your house. Wander around in it. Because doing that will give you a real idea of what it's going to be, you know? Not... I mean, you can't... If you want to live in these things, you've got to get it right on the money. Or you'll just be sick of it after a week. Yeah? So my wife's going to be so happy that that's gone. I'll tell you what though, as much work as it's been, if I could do this again, I totally would. It was so much fun. It was so hard. There were times that were so frustrating. There was a time there where it was like I couldn't find any other time to do anything else, and I literally was going insane, just crazy with how much it was taking out of me. But in the end, it was the most fun, the funnest project I've ever done. It's just a blast. And the reward of living in it has been just so much fun. There's always something to do. Anyhow, I hope this video has been helpful. If you're looking at your bus conversion, and yeah, like my videos and subscribe to the channel for more video updates and new projects we start working on. Thanks for all joining the party. We'll get you a full tour video in the next couple months where we'll demonstrate the entire coach. So, but we still have to finish up the front. There you have it. Thanks, y'all. See you on down the road.